there's no tomorrow. I wanna race to the
Can You See How I See would not be possible without the support of our executive producer, Mr. Tom Rao, whose lifestyle and wisdom inspires us all. So welcome, this is Keith and George to Can You See How I See? And we're excited to have a little talk today. George, so what have you been up to this week?
Well, this last couple days, I've been entertaining roofers. They put a new roof on my building and they proceeded to make me a whole lot poorer than I was last week. But it's been raining really, really hard all day long, and all the water is outside my building where it belongs and not inside where it had been coming.
That's a great thing. So I didn't realize you had a cat. So I just saw a cat walk past the screen a minute ago. A black cat. What's the scoop on the kitty?
The kitty, we had a cat when we moved here, and it was an older cat, and it passed away, and it had been gone for about a year and a half or so. And then one day we had some students downstairs taking lessons, and the one lady says, "What's your cat's name?" And we said, "We don't have a cat. Our cat died." And she goes, "No, I hear a kitty." So we go wandering around in the building, and here was a kitty that had broke into our building, and Sharon fed it because we had some cat food left over from the previous cat, and the kitty cat has never left. But he only has one person that he kind of listens to, and that's Sharon. He won't pay any attention to me unless I'm giving him food.
What's it's black. What's the kitty's name?
Kitty's name is Inky because black
Nice.
cats are inky. He's really a white cat with one great big huge gigantic black spot. He has one little tiny spot of white on his belly.
Oh, that's funny. That's funny. Well, that's cool. Hey, out of all the things you've done in life, to this date, reminding us, how old are you again? 72?
I'm gonna be 71.
71. I'm
71.
sorry. So, what would you say one of your proudest accomplishments
Well,
are to date?
the thing that I think was the most impactful that I've ever done in my whole life was running Camp Tusmahita. I ran that from 2003 up through 2010, and, until there was no more money left in the state of Michigan to do anything. And but as far as doing something that had the largest impact on the largest group of people, that was by far. It was, you got to see the results over time of the influence that you had on young people's lives who, young blind kids in school systems where they may only be the only blind person in the school system, either have a sense of, I'm the most amazing blind person in the world, or they feel totally beat up like they can't do anything. There's almost no middle ground. And both extremes prove always to be totally wrong for the most part. And so it was real fun to see those kinds of things happen. You're familiar with one of our campers pretty well, Jordan Castor.
Well, George, it's just weird that you say this because last night I had a conversation. We were at dinner, a group dinner, and I was telling them about the podcast, and I was telling them about yourself, and I was talking about how we first met filming at Camp Touch Mojito, which was near Grand Rapids, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Yep, yep.
And of course it was
Greenville, Michigan, and now I live in Greenville, Tennessee, which is interesting.
yeah. And of course, Camp Touch Meter, you were the camp director of this camp for children and young adults that were blind or visually impaired. And I was talking about how Jordan, when I filmed there twice over the years, and when I first met Jordan, she was very timid and shy and so on. And I came back the next summer and filmed, and she was this really outgoing, gregarious individual. And of course, now Jordan is, she's one of the superstars at Apple, doing helping with creating coding phones for individuals that are visually impaired and blind. But I have to credit her. I mean, I'd like to think, and I'm sure you'd fondly look back on those memories, that your directorship and leadership with young people that are blind probably sent her trajectory of light where she is today. I mean, you got to be that's a wonderful thing to be proud of, George. That's for sure.
One of the things that I know that it does or did, and can do is the fact that if you bring a group of, a large group of blind people together in one spot, they all of a sudden figure out that it is not their blindness that defines who they are. Blindness is just one of the attributes that they have, being tall, short, blonde, skinny, whatever it is. It's just something that you have. And once you can get them to understand that that is not what's going to hold them back in life, it's what they do with their experiences and their knowledge. That's what's going to define who they are. And that was the big thing that we were able to teach at the camp.
And I think that's a great lesson for people in life in general. I think we all have, at least myself and I'm sure in particular, have shortcomings that, I'm not blind, but, I have other shortcomings. And sometimes people need to realize that just being you, there's something within you that's special that you'll find your lane in life, if you will. Does that make any sense?
Absolutely. So for you, sir, why do you decide to be a chef? Why do you want to cook?
So I was a very, very poor student. I mean, I really just barely graduated high school, and I didn't go to college. I just something that I had a hard time in school, whether it's ADD, dyslexia. I probably had a little bit of. I'm sure I was a poster child for ADD back in the '60s, and nobody even knew what it was. But a school counselor said, listen, you're obviously having a really difficult time. Maybe you should consider a vocational art. And he sent me to look at this vocational school where you could go half the day to a vocational school and don't have to be in a classroom. And I was like, I can do that and find a trade. And they had welding there, and they had floristry, and they had landscaping, and they had cooking. And my mom was always a good cook, and I always liked to eat, so made sense. So I started going to vocational school, and I ended up working for a really well-known chef, Chef Douglas, and food just talked to me, and it became I quickly learned that food became my passport. Cooking became my passport for the world. I mean, I've traveled, lived all over the world, and cooked on cruise ships, and done amazing events in different places of the world, and of course my Food Network career. And so, for me, it's been my journey. It's been my adventurous journey, which is ironic. We're talking about this because this kind of tees up who our guests are today, George.
We're going to talk about food.
We're going to talk about food. We're going to talk about food and life with our two fellow colleagues, aging chefs, who are very dear friends of mine. One was in my wedding. The other one, we used to race dirt bikes together and stuff. And both are very well known. Chef Ed Janos, who's a master chef, and Chef Brian Polcyn, who's a certified executive chef. Both have international careers, and we're very, very close. And I hope that this doesn't go off the rails, because the three of us together it could be a little problematic, but we'll see. It may end up turning to be an intervention for one of us. We'll see where this goes. So George, you're gonna have to you're gonna have to help jump in. Don't be afraid to jump in and get into this conversation with us, or even telling us to stop fighting between each other. But and they're starting their own podcast too, called Well Seasoned, which is going to launch very soon. So I was fortunate to do a recording of their podcast, so I'm excited to have them in our studios with us. So
it's interesting you talked. It's interesting you talked about your counselor in high school. I can remember clearly one day in high school, in English class, they were conjugating verbs in the English class, and Miss Manning, the English teacher, said to me, she says, you might want to go over to the shop and talk to Mr. Anderson this hour while we do this. She fully understood that I was not going to be an English major.
Which things turned out just fine for George, now didn't they?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm definitely not an English major. So before we bring in Brian and Ed into our studios, George, what do you say we'll show a little clip of these two culinary legends and who they are. So hang tight and listen to this.
When I was coming up, there was 3 chefs that you would consider working for if you wanted to learn and develop your craft more. And that was Milo, Strelka, Yvonne Gill, and Douglas.
When I started in the late 70s and early 80s, it was not fashionable to become a chef, especially in the Detroit scene. Well, back in the heyday of Milos' era, when you took a job with a European trained chef or or someone of that level, there was no owner's manual that came with it. They didn't hand you like, here's the guidelines of the kitchen. You had to fare and figure it out. And they were intense, especially Milo's. I made hollandaise and I was all happy about it. I handed it to him and he took one look at me, took the bowl, threw it in the garbage can, didn't say a word and walked away. So what do? Do I act like a little baby? Do I get all insulted? Do I walk out? You know what I did? I went, well, I guess he didn't like that. I must have had something wrong with that. He was one of the few or first chefs to get a gold medal with distinction, which means perfect score. And here's a chef from Detroit, Michigan, competing in an international competition. That's France, Germany, Switzerland, Belgium, all these guys. And he gets the highest award of anybody for individual platter. He spawned generations of cooks and then eventually chefs. Because when you walk into that kitchen, you walk in a cook, and if you're smart and you last long enough, you walk out a chef. It's like a PhD. Food is very clear. It's burnt or it's not burnt. That's the integrity, a level of integrity that those European chefs brought to our generation, then our generation brought to the next generation.
Our dear listeners, welcome again back to Can You See How I See? George and I are thrilled to have you here. And in our studio, as you know, we've got two of the America's most prominent chefs, by far two of Michigan's most prominent chefs, Chef Brian Polcyn and Chef Ed Janos, who are dear friends of mine and colleagues. And I'll do the best I can to keep this from going off the rails.
Good luck with that.
Because we go back, Brian and I go back to high school
yeah.
because we both went to Southwest Oakland Vocational School for Cooking.
Right.
And
We were outcasts in high school. They said, back in those days, they didn't say like, oh, you're going to be a doctor, you're going to be a lawyer. They looked at us and said, you need to find a trade.
Yeah.
Exactly right. So, in so much of our restaurant industry is made up of kind of misfits, outcasts, individuals that have found their way in. And Ed's the anomaly here. He was the intelligent one, all great grades and,
No, he was, smarter. But
he was smart.
Then he fell off. He tilted about 23. And when I met him, he was 23, 24. He fell off.
Why? What was it about cooking for you, Ed?
I actually wanted to be a musician. That was my dream. But I realized at an early age that I didn't have enough talent. Angela, you remember Angela? Her
your first wife.
We remember Angela. Believe me.
She came
Careful.
From a very musical family, and so I had taught one of the
That family then
brothers.
sat you down and said, "That's not going to work for you."
Well, no, I realized on my own, luckily enough. But anyway, so I had been cooking in high school, and I just thought about, I was just like, hey, I like doing this. It wasn't a popular career choice at the time. There was no Paul Bocuse, there was no Food Network, there was nothing. I just did it because I wanted to. And my parents, they didn't divulge to me until I was older. As a matter of fact, I brought them to Pike Street for one of their anniversary dinners, and they finally divulged to me that they said that they were disappointed when I told them that I wanted to be a cook, and they wanted me to be something professional, a lawyer, or architect, or something like that, but that they never dreamed that I'd be as successful as I was.
Yeah, I had that same situation with my dad. That's funny. He wanted me to be an engineer. I was adopted, so he was this Ford motor engineer kind of guy. Great, very, hand penmanship was amazing, and of course, school, World War II veteran, all that stuff. And he was very, very disappointed that I wanted to be a cook. I mean, he just couldn't wrap his head around it. I mean, just was like, you're going to be a failure.
My dad was a factory worker for 35, 40 years or something. And I wanted to buy a motorcycle when I was like 14. He goes, you want a motorcycle? Find a job. So first job was washing dishes, and then one day one of the cooks didn't show up, and I was the first warm body walking by. They said, "You come over here," and it just came easy. I mean, this was fun. It was great, and I made money. I did buy a motorcycle, and then it wasn't until I was the chef at the Lark, and I got Restaurant of the Year, and I was on the front page of the food section of the Free Press, that my dad went, "Holy, what is this?" And I told him how much money I was making, and he went,
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember when at Chez Raphael, when we first opened Raphael's, a little 42-seat restaurant. I was a chef there, and my dad and mom were there, and my dad pulled me aside at the end of the night, and I was 22 years old, and he said it was the first time ever he told me he loved me and he was proud of me.
Yeah,
it was a big deal. It was a
Well,
big
those
deal.
days, that, like you came from a similar background, Ed. I know Keith, your dad was an executive, but still, I mean, like I remember you saying your dad worked at the Free Press and you worked there, and you would watch the clock, and the clock would like take forever to go 8 hours. But in the kitchen, you show up at 8 in the morning, and next thing you know, it's 9 o'clock at night. You go, where the hell did the time go?
Yeah.
And it was a lot easier. I mean, I loved that too. It's like I would bounce out of bed, ready to go to work. I mean, it was just to me, it was like I couldn't wait to get in there because you look down at lunch service is over at 2. You start prepping dinner. Next thing you know, dinner service is over. It's 10 o'clock at night.
Yeah.
You do it all over again. George, did your father? It's interesting because then I didn't realize we were going to be talking about our dads, but our dads all had an impact on our earlier careers as far as justifying or approving or not approving what we wanted to do. How old were you when your father passed? How old were you, George? And do you remember him talking to you about career choices?
I was 13. I had pretty much decided by that point in time that probably my destiny was going to be a mechanic to work on earth movers and bulldozers and those things, because that's what my dad sold. And my dad was always supportive of anything I ever wanted to do. When I was 9 years old, I said, I want to know how lawnmower engines work. So he took me down to the local hardware store. We grabbed the lawnmower that didn't run anymore. We brought it home, put it up on the bench in the garage, and tore it all down. Figured out what was wrong with it, put it all back together, and got it to run. And so he, my dad was really interested. I had a little bit of vision when I was a kid, but I mean, I was a blind kid. I mean, I'd walk into trees and walls. But he was anything my cousins were doing, I should be doing. So it was riding horses, if it was rodeo and cows, if it was baling hay, whatever it was. I was out the water skiing, whatever it was that they were doing, I was doing. So he was supportive of whatever I wanted to do. But after he passed away, the earth moving thing kind of went away. But I went to we had a vocational program at my high school that was to be a Volkswagen mechanic. So I went through the whole program and became a Volkswagen
That's a good
mechanic.
job to have because Volkswagens break down a lot.
Yeah, and
I had one.
there you go. So I worked at the Volkswagen dealership for a while while I was in high school and that, and then I decided I didn't like getting dirty. I mean, you were always greasy and grimy, and it was a psychological thing. I always figured that I could never get my fingernails clean, and then no one wants to be around someone with dirty hands. So,
No,
it,
heck no.
and I hated the smell of grease. So, transmission grease in particular. And so I just one day I got done working at the Volkswagen dealership, and the guy, it was the last ticket of the day, and I handed it to him. I said, "I'm done." And he goes, "Well, we got a lot of stuff lined, for tomorrow." And I says, "No, you don't understand. I'm done. I'm taking my own tools home tonight. I'm not coming back." And he says, "You can't." He says, "You can't do that." And I said, "Watch me." And so I was looking for something to do, and a friend of mine was a woodworker, so building boats. He needed some help, so I started helping him, and then one thing led to another. Next thing you know, I'm doing bars, restaurants, storefronts. Probably built maybe 10 bars in my life, at least, for restaurants.
Yeah, the bars he's built are beautiful. He did the doors at the courthouse in Traverse City, which are still there. He did
that right?
yeah.
Huh.
It's
And,
working.
like,
Interesting.
Like 5 storefronts downtown Traverse City still exist that I built, back in the in the 70s.
So obviously, our dialogue, our narrative here is always that we're facing these aging issues and how we approach aging and so on. And it's I'm going to be 66. Brian's going to be.
I'm 66.
You are 66. Ed is
69.
69. George is going to be 71. And 30 years ago, it was pretty common that guys our age were all retired playing golf and whatever, but we're still actively we may be doing something different. I'm still doing the same damn thing, but we're still working, and we still have to stay relevant to what to who we are and keep us healthy and so on. And so I'm just curious of morning routines. Like, George, what's your morning routine when you get up? What's and I don't want to be the poster child for the perfect morning routine, but I got a pretty good morning routine I want to share with you guys because I think it works for me. It could benefit Brian.
You
It
know,
could benefit everybody here. What's your morning routine, George?
I generally get up about 6:30ish, pretty consistently. Make coffee, sit down and look through my emails. I'll wait for Sharon to get up and see what she wants to do for, something for breakfast. And then I've been trying really hard every day to be in my shop by 9 o'clock in the morning doing something.
And your job is pretty physical.
Somewhat. I did wimp out though. I mean, 10 years ago, I would have never hired someone to put a new roof on my building. I would have done it myself. And matter of fact, a couple weeks ago, when the one spot on the roof was really, really bad, I did get out the Sawzall. I cut about a 16 by 20 section right out of my roof myself, and had some friends help me haul the debris away and redecked it and fix it so that portion of the roof would stop leaking. But then there was other areas in the roof, and the whole thing needed to be done. So I hired a professional crew to come in and do it. I mean,
So you're up at 6:30. You have coffee, check your emails, all that stuff, and then goal is you're at work in your studio there by 9.
that's what I try. And then I work until whenever I'm tired of working at it. Sometimes that's 10 o'clock, and sometimes it's not. And
That's my
sometimes it's
kind of
not
work
until
day.
and sometimes it's not until 9 o'clock at night. I mean, it just
Right.
depends on the level of whatever you're doing's interest and creativity and that kinds of things.
See, I find
What
that
about
to
you?
be the most beautiful thing about retirement, what George just said. My work day's from 9 to 10, or it's 9 till 7, or it's what you want to do.
Well, so you are retired. So
Oh, I'm 100% retired. I'm enjoying it. Fantastic.
what time do you
And
get up?
I get up 5:30, 5, 6, somewhere constantly. I mean, I don't have an alarm or anything. But, as Ed and I talked about this, I prepared myself for retirement. Spent 5 years trying to phase myself out into it because my wife was all worried about, what are you going to do? What are you going to do with your time? I don't know. So I worked at my mental state, be mentally healthy. And part of the process for me was like my father, when he retired, it was like, I retired. It was like the finish line. I made it, 37 years, whatever many years he worked, and he retired, and that was it. And I thought that was it. I said to my wife, Julie, I want to buy a checkered flag. You're going to stand at the driveway. I'm going to drive up there. You're going to wave the flag. I made it, And I realized that's not what retirement is. Retirement is preparing for the next phase. And I watched how other chefs retired. Guys I worked with at school and what they did. Some were happy, some were sad, some missed the working. I miss the students zero. I miss the restaurant business zero, But I love to cook. So I cook every day, and I put a lot of time into what I make for dinner. As my big decisions are, what's for lunch and what's for dinner.
So what do you put in your body first thing in the morning? How do you physically?
Granola, yogurt. I've gotten fat, as you can see, but I used to eat 3 eggs and bacon. I still do once in a while. But the morning routines, I get up, I emails, watching news and stuff. Julie gets up, feed the dogs. If the weather's halfway decent, I try to do something around the house outside. If it's not, it's up in the office for a while. Then it's, I start cooking or something like that. Or I love to have errands. My wife loves to send me on errands. And if it's good weather, I take my motorcycle. So she says, okay, we need milk. We need to go to Harbor, so you get this. I'm gone for 5 hours. She goes, where'd you go? And I said, well, I went for a ride. Should you get the milk? No. Did you go to Harbor, sir? No, I forgot. I rode about 150 miles. And I came home and I said, oh my God, was I supposed to pick something up? So it's like that mentality of just freedom. And I'm really enjoying myself.
How about you, Ed?
Well, I'm semi-retired. So as you know, I'm here in Michigan. I'm finishing up a project I've been on for 3 months. So my morning routine varies. So when I'm in Colorado at home, I typically wake up at 5 a.m. I make coffee. I read the New York Times online, check emails, and then I play tennis Sunday, Monday, Wednesday, often 2 times on Friday. And then every morning I stretch. I do push-ups, I do planks, I do pull-ups. I'm working out before I go play tennis. When I play tennis, I limit myself to like 30 push-ups where I play. On my off days, I do 50 plus. Today I did 66 push-ups this morning. And
I do different things.
66
Show
push-ups
off.
all at once?
Show off.
I did 51 at once, which I can't always do. But,
Yeah, because before we're done here, I want to see that.
but
Brian,
I've
I wanna
already
take
done
pictures.
66. so-
Brian's shaking his... Brian is sitting here shaking his
I
head
hired
like
a trainer.
there's...
I've been working out, and she goes, "Give me as many push-ups as you can do." I'm not going to tell you how many I did. I can tell you it wasn't 66.
Yeah. Well, I did 51, and then I did another 15.
So, and with you being in town, which has been great, don't mean to interject here, because I play tennis, and so I've been able to hit with Ed
Yeah.
at least once a week. We go out and play, and it's been fantastic. We've had so much time hitting together and stuff like that, which
Yeah,
is
it's been
great.
fun, yeah.
And racket sports are... Talk about the importance of racket sports.
Well, I know this because Christy, my wife, she owns a racket sports training company in Colorado, Advantage U. And so tennis, studies indicate that it adds up to 9.6 years of life expectancy. Not only is it the physical, but the mental part of playing tennis, and then also the social aspect. Like Christy and I, all of our friends in Colorado are from tennis. So, you meet people and friends, and so,
Yeah.
it adds to your life.
What were we going to say, George?
It's showing off to do that many push-ups.
That's what I said, George. He doesn't have to show off like that. I mean, he could have just been a little more humble about it. But his whole life, he's been the center of attention.
Well,
Wait, are you looking in the mirror right now?
No, I'm talking to Ed.
Oh, you're about Ed. I'm sorry. So, go ahead.
that's my morning, and I eat very light in the morning, and a lot of times I have a shake that I make with fruits and vegetables.
So, I've been fortunate to be working on these documentaries, and I had this transition in my life, and from running restaurants to documentary filmmaking, blah, 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 and all that good stuff. We've done so many stories about lifestyle and health and aging and stuff. It's taught me a great deal, that I say this all the time, and it's such a true line that how you live your life today determines how you age tomorrow. Just no way around it. It's just fact. But so my routine has evolved in the morning, and which is interesting. I get up and I do first thing I'll put in my body is 2 cups of water and the biggest lemon juice I could find with some cayenne pepper. First thing I do. It starts the digestion in your system, the enzymes and all that stuff. It's all tremendous value to you. And then I always do a series of squats because one of the most important things as you get older is to keep your legs strong and flexible. And it's amazing. You squat down. You take squatting for granted, but boy, you do 10 or 20 of those in the morning, you really wake your ass up. And the other thing is that I've learned that, balance. And I think I have pretty good balance. I think we all have pretty good balance. Brush your teeth on one foot.
That's
I do it every morning. I brush my teeth on one foot. I back and forth, and you realize how your balance really kind of sucks.
It's like putting your socks on, without leaning against something, right?
I don't, I watched a woman the other day, an 80-year-old woman on YouTube, bend over, pick up a sock, one leg in the air, one leg stretch in the air, and put her sock, and then bring her sock and put it on.
That's good.
That's
She
really
did both, and she never touched the ground.
Yeah.
I don't think I can do it, so I had to try that. But the point is, I don't think I can do it. And then I do a protein drink, and then I'll eventually have something to eat and coffee and head off to the office. And then Kat and I recently have been getting into these walks. We do these walks at nighttime. It's called a Japanese walk.
Is that where you walk heavy, quiet for 3 minutes and hard for 3
Yeah,
minutes?
yeah. And you think that's nothing.
No,
I tell you what,
it's heavy.
You do 30 minutes of that. I'm telling you, 3 minutes of really hard, fast-paced walking without running. It really will, burn a tremendous amount of calories, and you work the leg muscles and stuff like that too.
Put on a weighted vest too.
I have one, but I can't keep up with her. Kat's 10 years younger. I have a hard time keeping up with her as it is. But putting a weighted vest on, I might as well just sit on the porch, wait till she gets home.
He's like a handicap on the horses. You put extra weight on.
And George, so physically, because you spend so much time lifting heavy stuff, you probably get a lot of activity like that just in the carpentry studio. Because I don't think people realize how physical that is.
No, and I'm the first to admit I don't get as much physical exercise as I did. There was a time in my life, when I ran, 60 miles a week, quite a few years, keeping in shape for skiing. for cross country skiing, and you know, and I
Hey,
don't
hey,
do
wait,
that now,
wait.
and I probably should.
Mention to these guys that one cross country skiing you did from where to where, just so they can just throw that them.
I started on the Kola Peninsula in Russia and skied all the way across Norway, Finland, and Sweden, a little over 500 miles.
Jesus Christ.
Pulled all of our own gear and sleds, and
That's
camped
awesome.
out, and it only got down to 57 below one night. Not too bad.
Holy moly.
Yikes.
All maps, no Google.
Yeah, yeah. No, this was long before Google ever existed. We just topographical map, a compass, and a sextant,
Yep.
and
That's
and
the good old
uh,
days.
and some, and that's, how lost can you get when you're up by the Arctic Circle? I mean, just follow that line. It's on every map.
Brian was recently on a road trip. I was following him on his bike, and he was posting stuff, and it was funny because he was mentioning, I forgot where you were, but you weren't using Google. You were just using visual road maps.
I had a compass and common sense. I rode to Lake Michigan. I hit the lake. I turned left, and I followed
There
it
you go.
around. And when I wanted to go north, I kept the lake to my right. When I wanted to go south, I kept the lake to my left. It was very simple, and I had a
My
great
my
time.
good
Just
my good friend Tom Penske, who I think is going to turn 85 this year, just rode his Harley trike to Alaska from Minnesota this
yeah,
summer.
I rode to Alaska from Michigan. It was over 9,000 miles there and back, 27 days. It was great. Oh, and we take all 2-lane roads, no highways. Like we took that out of Whitefish, Montana. We took the highway to the Sun through the Canadian Rockies to Prince Rupert there, and so I mean it's just
Beautiful up there.
very beautiful. And there's a reason they call it the Rockies because man, it's all rock. I mean, there's no trees. There's yeah, it's beautiful. See, I can't, I feel bad saying I was on a motorcycle. This guy cross-country skis across the tundra. And I'm like, yeah, man, I got to get some more gas and go 50 miles an hour.
So let's open this conversation up a little bit. George, I have a interesting, or I have a whether it's interesting or not is irrelevant. Brian will decide if it's interesting or not. I have a perspective on. I'm looking at Brian. Brian will decide if what I have to say is interesting to him. Let's put it that way. But I have a perspective that because we were in the restaurant business all our lives, and and we are doing everything we can to avoid this being a political conversation, but Brian and Ed and myself, and you, George, too, in a lot of ways, because of our lifestyles and the path we went on in our careers, especially in the hospitality business, from early on, we worked with a extreme diverse range of culinary professionals, whether they be immigrants from Poland, Thailand, Vietnam, China, Mexico. It was irrelevant. And it gave us a sense of, I'd like to think, as global humanitarian understanding that I think is lacking in society, and chefs in particular, especially diverse chefs that have done so many of these, had these leadership roles, have a unique perspective on society and humanity in general because of especially if most chefs are curious by nature. So instead of looking at somebody in your kitchen as you're an immigrant or you don't fit in, we're more drawn to tell us about your food or your homeland and what did mom and dad used to cook for you. And we found that level of curiosity, and I think gives chefs a unique perspective of life. I mean, do you guys agree with that?
No.
No.
No, I think you're giving way too much, at least for me, way too much credit. I mean, in reality, I think like Anthony Lombardi from She-Wolf said it best when we interviewed him. He said the kitchen's like a pirate ship. Okay, you load everybody on board, you leave port. You don't care where they came from. I don't care if you're Thai, Chinese, or African. We're headed. It's a pirate ship. We all row together. We all die. And I have to be honest with this. It was like I was selfish. You want to be on board with me? The train's leaving the station, baby, and let's go. It's incident. You're green. You're purple. You're a woman. You're a man. I don't care.
That's my
Can
point.
you
Is
set your
chefs?
station?
That's
But
my point. Chefs are
I
acceptance.
spend zero time getting to know my cooks and saying, "What's your home food like? Are you?" Oh, wait a minute.
You were
In
that
the-
kind
in
of.
the but the last few years I had to, because the last few years the climate changed in the kitchen, and I had to say, "Oh, Johnny, you're late for work today. Is there something wrong? Oh, let me help you set your station up. And I'm going to hire you a life coach because I know you're mentally strained. Okay. Now, 30 years ago, it would have said, Johnny, you're fired. Get out of here. Next in line, jump on board. But you see, things have changed. But I think, honestly, I mean, I'm exaggerating. I cared about my staff. But really, honestly, it was about getting the job done. It had nothing to do with your ethnicity or politics. It didn't matter. It was like if you could do the job and love the food the way I love the food, then you're with me. If you're not in that mental state when you're with my time, then you don't belong in the kitchen with me. That's all it was.
I saw I think it was Marco Pierre White, a quote with, he's like, the kids today, they're interested in using tweezers and putting dots on a plate. He's like, being a cook is like being in the army. You got to get stuff done. You got to get it done fast, and it's got to taste good.
Right.
So,
But wouldn't you both agree though that because we've had such a diverse workforce, it creates a level of understanding, interest.
it does. I agree with you. And
I mean,
Brian's saying the same thing. You just
Back
but
in the
in a
day,
different
let's
way.
be honest, Ed, you and I hired more women in the kitchen than anybody in Detroit.
No, me too. Come on,
Laura
listen.
Merkleski, I mean, in high positions, sous chef, chef de
My
cuisine.
sous chef, one of my twice my sous chefs were both women.
Well, we know why that you promoted them.
No, that's not true. Yeah, wait, are you talking to me or Ed? Oh, you're talking to Ed. Yeah, okay, that's true. That's true.
I'm
true.
kidding, 100%
Definitely not.
kidding about that. But that was a big deal back in the 80s and 90s, the amount of women in the kitchen, because it was a man's world for the longest time. And I know the three
it
of us
still
were
is.
exactly the same. We didn't care, man. If you could do the job. I remember when I promoted Laura to sous chef, I had a guy threaten me, come in the office and quit because he wanted the job. And the worst thing you do to me is try to put me over a barrel. Right. So I said, quit, man, I don't care. And he stayed and he tried to make her life hell, undermining her authority. And I ended up, I don't really let people go. I don't think I fired like 2 people in my whole life.
You let them fire themselves.
Yeah, I let them fire themselves. But I made sure that the line was drawn, and if you didn't like it, he quit. He didn't. And that was terrible that person did that. But, I was looking at not like I was a trendsetter and helping these women do better. I just picked the best person.
Right,
best candidate for the job.
exactly.
I had a former cooks, happened to be African American, reach out to me and they said, Ed, I knew as African American that you didn't care what color my skin was. You just wanted, and he said that was the talk amongst the African American cooks, is that Janos doesn't care what color you are, what nationality you are. It's just as long as you can do your job and you do it good, that's all he cares about.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, remember Sean Loving? He was, he worked for me when he was 19, 20 years old. Of course, he's a master chef and runs a DAC.
Yeah.
By far one of the greatest,
Phenomenal.
passionate cooks.
He
ever.
ran the department at the Schoolcraft where I taught with him, and he was the best leader we ever had there.
Yeah.
And believe me, leading a bunch of chefs is not an easy thing to do.
Especially Brian, if you got
Especially
somebody
me.
like Brian on
Yeah.
staff.
I mean, I'm a disruptor, as you know. But yeah, he corralled me in. It was like herding cats, but he did it.
Yeah.
So, George, are there a lot of women in the carpentry industry? God, didn't even think about that till just now.
It's interesting that one of the people on the roofing crew that did my roof was a lady, which I thought,
You don't see
which I
that very
was
often.
happy to see. Yeah, and it's interesting because back in the day when I had my big mill shop in Traverse City, I hired a lady to work in my shop, and this is back in the '70s. And it's funny. I had one guy at my shop. What are you doing hiring a woman? I says, well, the day you learn to finish as good as she can, you can have her job.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah,
Good for you.
She was the best finisher I ever had ever. I mean, bar
George,
none.
what made you leave Traverse City, the beautiful area, and go to Tennessee?
In 1981, the state of Michigan kind of collapsed and interest rates went to 22% or whatever. And,
I remember.
1882. And there just wasn't any work. So I had just built a big 1,500 square foot finishing room on the end of my building, and I couldn't make the payments. I went broke. So I picked up everything I owned and got on a Greyhound bus and moved to Hickory, North Carolina,
Huh.
and went back to work in the furniture business in Hickory, North Carolina, and went to Catawba Valley College to get a degree in furniture production management. I never did graduate, but I got a good job out of the deal.
Nice. And yeah, and then you ended up in Minnesota, right? And then Tennessee.
Yep. Yeah, and a stint out in California. I took a contract job out in California to
In
take
Napa
an
Valley.
old 19 in Napa Valley to take an old 1920s grape crushing barn and turn it into art studios and teaching space for a camp
Awesome.
that was owned by the San
Amazing.
Francisco
Yeah, it is
Lions for the
amazing.
Blind.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Once again, I cook green beans for a living.
There's the trigger word. Yeah. Got a tissue over here?
So as you guys get, as we all get older, and we all have kids and stuff like that, what scares you the most? I mean, I've come there. My daughter the other day said to me, "Dad, you have to stop worrying." I said, "I can't. It's my job."
Stop what?
She says, "You got to stop worrying about me."
Oh,
Or,
worrying.
I don't know what, it was a small thing. And I said, "This is my job. I was put here to worry about you guys. And the moment I stop worrying, we have other issues and stuff like that." Our kids are, they're older and stuff like that. But you just had an incident with Dylan.
Yeah.
It scared the shit out of you, right?
Worst 10 days of my life, man.
Yeah.
He
What, Dylan?
broke
How
his-
old is Dylan?
31.
And what happened?
He's number 4. I forget his name. I only know my kids, but I got 5 of them. So I number. Oh, yeah, Dylan is number 4. Yeah, he was on a rope swing up north with his buddies on a canoe and tried to do a flip and landed in the 6 inches of water instead of the deep end, right on his head. Broke his neck right there. Thank God there were some paramedics in the canoes behind him. They set his neck. They called the ambulance. He's up in Traverse City. Never heard of this hospital. He did, of course, went right up there. Emergency surgery. Got a titanium plate in his neck. Screws, and he's been living with me for today. He's meeting with the doctor in Zoom. He might get his neck brace off today. 3.5 months or so. And so, I mean, at the first, I
Lucky,
had
he's
to
lucky.
oh yeah, man.
Did
I
it
had to
scare you?
shave him. I had to cook for him, cut his food up. It scared me. It was the worst 10 days of my. I thought he could have died, man. It was terrible.
And what kind of conversation did you, I mean, of course you wanted to say,
Well, after he was, all I cared about is getting him stable and all stuff. And then over the conversations with him were like, well, what do you think about that? And he looks at me and he goes, well, that was stupid of me to do that. I said, well, you're a man now. I can't tell you what to do. Okay, you can make your own choices. But here's the deal, man. You put yourself in a very vulnerable position. I had kids when I was 31. I would never take that kind of risk. That's the kind of risk you do when you're 18 and do stupid shit. I said, but you're a man, and I'm not here to tell you what to do. And we talked about the life lessons and where you go with it. For me, it's like I worry about them, all 5 of them, but I break things down into. It's like being in the kitchen. I don't look at the whole problem. I look at the piece of the problem I can do something about. And right then and there was like making sure he's fed well, he's clean. Okay, now we got that. And now we move to the next thing, do the next thing. Then we solve the whole problem after we solve a bunch of small problems. And my wife, on the other hand, or I shouldn't say this, but it seems to be, the world's coming to an end. It's like that Tom Petty song. Most things I worry about never happen anyway. I try not to worry about the things I can't do anything about, and I try to be logical. But the emotional part, when your kid's, near death, I mean that's terrible. I mean it was worse. I mean right now, I start sweating just thinking about it because the bone was like they said 3 millimeters, which to me 3 millimeters is the 1/8 inch grind for sausage. I'm a sausage guy, and that's the finest grind for making mortadella, and. That's how close the bone fragment was to severing the spine. Then he would have been paralyzed.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yep.
But for me, it's like you worry, but I try to keep a level head, like in the kitchen. Organized chaos in the kitchen. You can't sit there if you're the captain of the plane and you run down the aisle of the plane saying we're on fire, we're all going to crash. Well, guess what? Everybody's going to go crazy.
Yeah.
But even if the plane's on fire, you still walk down the aisle and say, everything's going to be.
Anybody
just
want a
fine.
cocktail?
Yeah, right.
Chefs by nature that have been around for a long time leading kitchens have a tendency to figure things out, take a breath, and organize their minds and making sure the team doesn't lose their place.
And if you do end up crashing and burning, you did it with the most logical way. That's all there is to it.
Yeah, I mean, Ed, how old are your daughters now?
They're in their 40s.
They're in their
He's
40s.
not, he's
Yeah,
not sure.
45 and 42, I think. So,
Yeah. And you still worry about them, right?
Yeah, they're both very successful. They're both nurse practitioners. They have 8 years of college, and they're a lot smarter than me. But yeah, I still worry about them. But just like you said, Dylan's a man. They're grown women with their own families, and I make observations, but I keep everything to myself.
But don't they ask you for advice sometimes?
They do.
That's my best part.
Yeah.
When they ask me for advice, I mean, it's unsolicited. They say,
Right.
it
Yeah.
could be about business, it could be about this or that, but oftentimes I don't have the answer. And I certainly don't tell them. But what I'll do is listen to them.
Right.
And they'll and I'll say to them, boy, it sounds like you solved the problem. I don't know why you're asking me. You're smart enough to do this. And they go, oh, that makes sense. And then I walk away, holy shit, that was great. I was like, man, that was great.
You asked the question, what worries about getting older? What worries us? And there was 60 Minutes last night. There was the longevity doctor, the famous longevity doctor. I forget his name, but my younger daughter Allison told me to watch it. She actually sent me the clip because I didn't get a chance to watch it. But what worries me is, so I'm 69 now. I'm in good health. I'm strong. And I'm just worried about whatever my last decade of life is, that I just want to be able to live that last decade really strong. And I want to still be able to play tennis and still be, a strong mind. And so that worries me about, dropping off at some point.
And we'll be right back.
People who are interested for what I do here at Ginkgo Gallery, lots of people come and take a couple different classes. When people leave after the 2-day class, they generally have 1 or 2 things in their hand that they can take home with them. My skills and talents in the woodworking business are quite varied. We can accommodate most things that people want to learn how to do. To obtain any of the stuff that we have for sale here in our gallery, you can reach us through our Facebook page, Ginkgo Gallery Greenville, or you can stop by our gallery here in Greenville, Tennessee.
Let's get back to our discussion. We were playing tennis a couple of weeks ago, and we were in this huge point, back and forth, and I stopped and thought to myself, if we were 20 years younger, sitting on the bench watching ourselves play, and I started laughing so hard at myself because I thought, what would we say? What would we say? Because we think we look like we're 19 years old out there and we're playing Wimbledon. I can guarantee it's not what it looked like. George, how long are you going to keep doing this carpentry stuff?
Until I can't do it anymore. I mean, that's how I look at it.
How will you know that when you can't do it anymore?
When you can no longer, pick a tool up to, do what you need to do with it, I guess that would be the indicator.
So you have your own your own checklist. You're the one that's going to say, all right, this is it. Draw the line.
A few years ago, I was filming with an 80-year-old neurosurgeon, Malcolm Field, in Saginaw at a hospital, and I was filming him. It was one of our aging films, and we were filming with him. He was going to do a carotid artery surgery, and he's 80 years old and highly revered. People all want this surgeon over somebody that's 40, 50 years old because the guy's that good. And I followed him around all day, and he has a rule: no smoking, no booze, no elevators.
While at work?
No women, anything. That's it.
There really is something wrong with you.
It just ain't work.
So yes, no elevators, no smoking, no booze while at work or all day. Point is that carrying a camera, I had to literally run all day long with this, trying to keep up with him, doing these flights of stairs, 3 flights, 4 flights, 6 flights at this hospital. Mm-hmm. It was astonishing. And then I watched him perform this carotid artery surgery. And, we've done a lot of filming in ORs. And the nurse walks up and she draws with a marker where the carotid artery cut is going to be. And you guys all work with knives, and George, you work with sharp tools. Well, of course, he's
Yep.
working with a scalpel. My son is there filming with me. We're both in the OR room. This is Josh's, who's now a biologist. This is Josh's first time in an OR room, and Dr. Field picks up the scalpel off of the little unit there and walks up to the neck of the patient, who is now, of course, sleeping out cold. And as a chef, if we were doing anything with a sharp paring knife, we would take a moment to think about it and slowly make this cut, right? That's just what we would do. And I kid you not, he walked up, picked this knife up. Within the time he picked it up, he walked up to this guy's neck and made this cut like he was a slasher, right on the mark, and then walked back to the table. And now his neck is exposed. My son, Josh, freaks out, turns, walks, and faces the wall in the OR room because he knows in his mind he's going to hurl. He's like the most barbaric thing you've ever seen. But this guy at 80 years old was so meticulous and so fine-tuned, both mentally and physically. It was really exciting to see, and I was like, I want to be at 80 years old.
Yeah.
I want to be like that. I want to be that sharp still.
I play tennis with guys that are 82 years old, and they get around the court unbelievable. So
Well, Dan,
that's
when
what
we
I
were
wanna
out
be.
in California filming with the Mets, I played tennis with the Mets, and he just had a hip replaced a few weeks before, and he's out running around that court. And,
Yeah.
and George Ferdinand Metz is probably one of the nation's most important chef, who's had more impact on our culinary evolution of who we are as a nation than probably
behind
anybody.
the scenes.
Yeah, behind the
Yeah.
scenes by
Not a lot of chefs know who he is, but
Yeah.
the general public does.
But he's like 82 now, lives in California with his wife, who's 10 or 20 years younger, and they play tennis and everything. And he gets up and stretches every morning. And he had a really great, poignant, and we filmed with him for Detroit City of Chefs. And he said, chefs have got to learn to live differently when they get older. They have to. They cannot live the same way.
100%.
It's
interesting you said about 80 years old. You play tennis with 80 years old. I ride my motorcycle. Buddy of mine, he's 80, the leader of the pack, and no matter what happens, there's going to be some time in everybody's life, like George said, when I can't pick the tool up. That you just got to be able to admit it to yourself. That's the thing about retirement and getting old. You have to know your own boundaries and understand that. Not say, oh, now I'm going to die because I can't pick a tool up, or now I can't ride a two-wheel motorcycle. I got to ride a trike. It's the end of the world. It's just the next phase, whatever that is. And it happens to some people at 72. It happens to other people at 92.
Are you scared of dying?
Me? No. I'm not looking forward to it, but I don't sit around thinking about death as a bad. It happens to everybody. I think about living life like without regrets. It's like when my mom passed at 96. All my sisters were like, oh, and I said, I thought about it. I didn't really have. Regret she died, of course, but I said to myself, she lived at the end of myself. I visited her all the time, cooked dinner for her. I did. My kids all spent time. It was like I felt she moved on to the next thing. I didn't have any regrets, and I think that's the way I'll feel when it's my time. It's my time's my time. That's all.
You go. You afraid of dying, Ed?
I'm, I guess a little bit I am.
Why? What scares you the most about dying?
Well, what comes after that?
Well, you're a smart guy. You're the intelligent one of the group. What comes after that?
I wouldn't say I'm the intelligent one of the
knows.
group. I would just say that I don't know what comes next. So that's what makes me a little bit nervous.
So yeah, it's kind of like I've mentioned before. It's kind of like the roller coaster ride you can't say no to. It's going to be, it'll be if you can be conscious enough to go through the process and experience it in whatever way. But I guess what scares me about death so much isn't about dying as much as what I'm leaving behind and the grief and pain it causes loved ones, that will miss me, like the two of you guys.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
no, I
And
think
we will be around a long time after you're gone. We'll think about you.
Yeah, but
you're making an important point. You're right. It's like what I said about what you can control. You can't control when you die. Period.
No.
But you're right. The only thing you do know is the people who love us, who care about us, our family, are going to miss us.
And that should be a lesson of how to live life then,
absolutely.
because
Do the best.
especially as you start realizing we all have more time behind us than in front of us.
For sure.
The time you spend and who the time you spend with and the lives you impact now are what's going to be remembered. So all the wealth and all the money and all the
Doesn't
things
matter.
won't mean a damn thing. George, are you scared of dying?
I know for me, as you look at that, what I'm more concerned about than just the dying part is I would really like to go from really living to be just plain dead. I worry about that in between part where your body has deteriorated to a point where you can't do the things you want to do anymore. You can't
Exactly. Yeah.
you
Yeah, that's a
you
good point.
you
Yeah.
you become a burden. The dying part doesn't bother me at all. My preference is I would like to just go from the living part to being dead.
That's
So
it. That's a brilliant statement, George. When we
Yeah,
were
I agree.
working on these films with these in these blue zones and filming with these individuals, centenarians in their 100-year, 90, 95, 100, 102 years old, don't take vitamins, don't see doctors, all this kind of stuff, and they just live until they stop, and that's it. I mean, and you've got to imagine, oh shit, that's probably the best way to go because
Yeah, for sure.
nothing, in America today, and it happens, daily. There's, the last 5 years or 2, 3, 4, 5 years of many people's lives is you're looking at four walls.
Right.
That's it. And that does frighten, both cognitively and physically. So I mean,
Yeah, I'd have to agree with that.
I'm a little over the top on working out and all that stuff, but I'm scared that I want to be a burden. 'Cause I do not want to do that to my family.
When we're done here, I'm going to set up a thing with my motorcycle group. We'll build a big ramp over the Snake River, and I'm going to say we're going to jump. And we're not going to make it. He says, when I reach to that point, we just put me on my Harley, put that in cruise control, 80 miles an hour, and I'm gone.
Yeah, can I film that?
Yeah, you can film it. Well, you won't be around.
Well, that's right. That's right.
Your
I've
son can film it.
I will have met my demise before that.
That's right. Your son can do it.
No, I think that these are important things as we start getting older to start really contemplating and thinking about how our loved ones and our spouses too. I push Kat a lot lately, and in the last she's 10 years younger than me, but you got to lift weights. You've got to do these things because father time, mother time will catch up with you. There's no way around it. It's coming
For sure.
And so.
And that's
So
what-
now, but I'm 10 years older than her, and the other day she goes, "Oh my God, you're going to be 66." She goes, "It kind of scares me." I said, "What do you mean it scares you?" She goes, "I might look for a younger guy." "What are you saying? You want to look for a younger guy? What the hell are you talking about?" "Yeah, but you turned 65 wasn't a big deal, but you're turning 66. You're almost 70. I said, "I know." I try
She
to.
wants your Social Security.
I've tried to stay as healthy as I can
She's
for
like
as long as I can.
66 in 10 months, I'm getting that $4,000.
But for kids and grandkids and spouses and stuff, as we get older guys, we have to can't be selfish about ourselves. We have to think about them because at some point, at some way, it will affect them in one way or another. And so it's coming. That's just fact.
For sure.
Yeah.
And George,
quality of life is probably the most important thing as we get older. How do we maintain that? How do we keep from ending up in a nursing home or a facility of some sort? I keep doing things to my building here to help Sharon, who's had some ambulatory issues, is building ramps and changing stairs from being 2 9-inch steps to get up to something to 3 6-inch steps to get up to where it's easier for her. How do we keep modifying our lives to keep everybody in the spot where they want to live? And I know with me, it's important. I ask myself quite often times when things are, when you're doing things and everything, do I want to be right or do I want to be happy? And I find myself choosing the happy route, rather than arguing a point with somebody. And I've got to the point where it's not worth arguing with somebody about do they like crunchy peanut butter better than smooth peanut butter. It's just not worth my time.
Yeah, in this day and age that we live in, that you could fall into that hole all the time. Brian, on the other hand, is kind of a professional arguer who will argue about just about anything.
Only when I'm right.
No, and he does it so eloquently.
You were wrong one time.
When?
Well, you thought you were wrong, but you weren't.
That's right. I thought I was right. No, I don't argue. I agree with you, George. I mean, I think I've reached the. I mean, these guys are talking to me about me when I was much younger. Today, I'm like, I let so many things go. I'm more focused on the happiest. I want this last chapter, 50 years in the kitchen. I just want this last chapter of my life to be the happiest, and so far it has been. And I mentally prepared myself for it because I didn't know there was no manual that comes along and says this is how you retire as a chef. I mean, I was the kind of chef like Ed and Keith. We were entrepreneurs. We were self-made. We were our own bosses. We had responsibility. People rely on us all the time. And I read a lot. I still read a lot. I read an hour. I set aside an hour a day to read. But one book I read was, it was called Life After Power. And it was a book about 9 different presidents and how they retired, from Thomas Jefferson to, Fillmore to, they were all really good except for Bush. He's the only one that just retired and painted. Everybody else was like, they were Supreme Court justice. They still did more in their community. And I do a lot for my community. I own property, and I do a lot, really involved with where I live, Milford. And I do a lot. They call me the mayor of Milford. I'm going to run for mayor pretty soon. Then I'm going to be like Trump and just build a beautiful grand ballroom onto the Civic Center for my own personal benefit. And I'm going to use taxpayer dollars.
Hopefully you're going to erect a statue of yourself, too.
I'm going to tell everybody that it's privately funded, but I'm using taxpayer money. And there'll be a bronze picture of me on my motorcycle, or a statue of me in front. But other than that...
Yeah, right out of that playbook. That's
you're
a good,
right.
it's a good call.
It's just about, at this point, for me, I really resonated what you said about choosing to be happy. And there's no sense in arguing anything. I look at, try to find the best in whatever the situation is. Like Dylan's situation, it was not a good situation, but it's like the glass half full or half empty. It's like there's, what do we can do to get, what's the next best thing? Let's not sit around saying, this is the terrible, it happened to me. It happened. It was terrible. You're right. Now, what do you want for dinner?
Move on.
Right. So, what was I just going to say here? Well, here we go.
You're getting a little older.
He's getting older.
Lost your
Getting a little older. Yeah, exactly.
This is your last podcast, man. They're saying.
By the way,
wait a minute. I want to ask you. Did you notice that Keith's making donuts a lot?
I did notice that.
He's got a lot of powdered sugar in his hair and his beard.
I know.
powdered sugar in my hair.
Oh,
yeah,
no, his hair's white. Sorry.
Yeah, it's hair's white. Hey, by the way, George, I don't even think I've told you this, but these two clowns here across from me, who are my dear friends, they're starting their own podcast. It launches in the next day or so. It's called Well Seasoned.
Tomorrow, yeah.
Tell us about the podcast. What do you hope to do with that?
Well, Brian and I we're playing on our lifelong friendship and our each of our 50 years in the kitchen, and so we want to offer insight into our cooking experiences, our life experiences, some humor, some heat, and just based on our 50 years in the kitchen.
Yeah, and what's interesting is like the thing we just talk. We don't have a script or anything. We just kind of have an idea outlined, like we're talking about pasta. And we disagree on a lot of things. Like, when do you add the white wine to your risotto? Oh, no, I don't do it. And I'll have to say, hey, just because you don't do it that way doesn't mean anywhere in the world they don't do it that way.
And then
I use a steel pan for my scallops. Do you deglaze the pan? Yes, I do. Well, perhaps what happens if it gets too caramelized? Doesn't happen to me. So it's so much fun to banter back and forth. But what's really interesting is the responses we've been getting. People are like, "Oh, that's interesting," and we're like, "I didn't think we were that interesting."
Yeah, exactly. That's
so let's.
I just learned something just the other day about cooking. Someone pointed out to me the difference between polenta and grits. It's about $10.
So, guys, the way I met George, by the way, you guys don't know this, but the way I met George was an article came out.
I had to teach him how to cook. That's why we met.
He did. It was kind of
rice?
strange.
Did you teach him how to cook rice?
You're such an asshole.
That was terrible.
Can't believe you did that. And we were close friends until now. Isn't that funny how that thing felt wrapped the train? Of course, George, you're poking fun at my time on Survivor. But, George, you weren't supposed to laugh at that. So, my first meeting with George was I went to his house in Lansing through a series of, an article came out, Cranes, and it showed that I was working on this film about being blind, and George reached out from nowhere and said, hey, listen, I hear you're working on a film about being blind. I'm blind. And I said, well, I'd love to come see you. So he invited me to come to his house in Lansing when he's living there, and I said, can I bring my camera? I said, yeah, and I went and met George, and, meeting George was, really impactful and an exciting moment for me. I never spent any time with anybody blind, and so he invited me in, and Sharon, they had a nice little bungalow in Lansing, and he goes, what do you want for dinner? I said, I don't know, what kind of restaurants are around? We'll go get something to eat. He said, no, I'll cook dinner for you. The dude cooked me an amazing stir fry. Now, he had no idea that I was a chef and I had that previous career. So I'm filming the whole time. In my head, I'm thinking, man, he is really going, slicing, cutting, sauteing, everything, finds a stove, made a really, really sensational stir fry. And it was really, it was a memorable moment, George. And you're totally comfortable in the kitchen.
Hey, can I ask a question, George? And I'm just curious. So blind, is it like total blackness? Is it gray? Is it shadows?
I don't have any vision at all. None whatsoever. I have no vision. But it isn't black. I mean,
But talk about the mind's eye. And you talk about cooking, but explain the mind's eye, because it is pretty fascinating. You start realizing I'm less...
Yeah, well, that the site did a big thing about the mind's eye and everything. Oliver, I think that's his first name. And what happens in your brain, and we've talked about this with some of the other people that Keith has had on our podcast here, is that your brain will it's an opportunist. If the visual cortex isn't being used for visual things, other parts of your brain will go in and raid it and take it over and start using its filing cabinets and putting information there, and it'll use the processing that is available in your visual cortex to process things that come to you different ways. So I truly believe if I pick up a bowl and I turn it in my hands and I look at it at my hands and I look at how the bottom is formed and I look at the little beads around the edge and the sides of the curves and the thickness of the walls and all of that, how I see that with my fingers is exactly the same way someone sees it with their eye. And I don't think there's any difference whatsoever.
Interesting.
I truly believe things that feel nice in your hands, for the most part, look nice to the eye. Proportioning is just as recognizable through your hands as it is through your eye. You pick things up and don't like how they feel, you put them back down. If they're not comfortable in your hand.
And we'll be right back. Who doesn't love pickled veggies? Now, thanks to the Great Lake Pickling Company, you can so easily create a wide variety of pickled vegetables in a week in your fridge with this very cool pickling pouch. Just drop in almost any type of vegetables, and in a week, you have some really great homemade, delicious, crunchy pickled vegetables. Just go to greatlakepickling.com. Back to our discussion. George, when you cook, what do you like? What concerns you when you're cooking? Is it the working with knives or is it working with heat?
Neither one of them concern me. They're just there. You just got to deal with them just like everybody else does. I mean, there's no difference. I mean, I have burns on the backs of my wrists from oven racks, just like everybody else who's ever worked in a kitchen does. Everybody's done it. You learn to pay attention. You when you're doing things, it was McEnroe, the tennis player, one time they were trying to do this experiment with them, and they put these glasses on them that the moment that the person on the other end of the tennis court hit the tennis ball, it would close off his vision to him. He had the glasses on, so the moment the ball left the racket at the other end of the court, and he'd still hit it like 80% of the time. All those decisions were already made. Your muscle memory went and did what it was supposed to do. You guys, when you're working in the kitchen, you'll be doing one thing, you'll reach over and grab something without ever taking your eyes off what you got in the pan because you don't want it to scorch or burn. We all learn how to use that muscle memory. Some of us just learn to use it better than the others. Some of us can get up in the middle of the night and find their way to the bathroom and not fall down the stairs. And that's true with almost everybody. I mean, it's their own house. They know it. You don't want to wake other people up. You don't turn the lights on and you don't fall down the stairs. That's absolutely amazing.
Right, right.
Yeah, we have a situational awareness, like
Yes.
in the kitchen. You listen to it. You can hear the pot. Okay, that's that's bubbling. The polenta or grits. Well, it depends how much money I'm making. It's bubbling too much. I know it's going to scorch. I could hear it happening while you're cutting green beans, and Ed's weeping because the green beans is such a trigger for him.
So, someone I just want to mention because he deserves to be mentioned, and he's really kind of a model for aging well is Chef Milos. When he's in his 90s now, he's in a facility, but he's still sharp and still.
Yeah, I was going to bring him up earlier in the conversation when you said, you play tennis with guys that are 80 and so on, or you interview with a doctor still 80. Milos is 93 or so, but I watched him. He was like when he retired from the kitchen, he had a farm. He was out there planting trees. It was very physical.
Yeah.
Eastern European mentality. He did a lot of crazy things. Like he had, well, I shouldn't tell you the stories. Anyhow, he in this farm and all this stuff. But there was like 3 or 4 years ago, it's like a light switch happened. His mind was one place, but his body was somewhere else. Even though he's physically fit, took care of himself, ate well, and all that stuff. It was, that happens to all of us.
That makes me nervous. I don't want that to happen to me.
Yeah. So we're kind of closing on down on this. I'm going to ask this question and see how fast you guys can respond to it. And I'll ask you first. Just anything that comes to mind in your world of cooking and entertaining and running restaurants, one of the most memorable moments and why, Brian?
Oh man, there were so many. I mean, I opening a restaurant is like having another baby, and I opened 6. But the best part of my day was getting home after a long 12-hour day or something, and my family. I'd walk in the back door, there'd be 20 pairs of shoes and socks. I'd have $1,000 worth of shoes with 5 kids and football cleats and 11 o'clock at night. And those days I would look at it and say, God darn it, nobody puts things away. Now I get home and I miss those. I know why I would work so hard. I worked so hard to, provide for my family and have the life that I have right now. And the warmth and the care of a wife that I've had for married 43 years.
Well, that's great. You didn't really answer the question.
It wasn't the best meal I ever made. I made a lot of good meals.
No, that was.
And
At
least 10 of my meals were way better than Ed's. So
Yeah, but you used my recipe.
but I used his
How
recipe.
did it happen?
least you didn't say me. What about you, Ed? Pick a moment in time, something that just popped in your head.
I remember bringing my daughters to the money tree, and they would sit in my office, which was a table in the storeroom, and they would have chef hats, and they would draw with crayons on them and stuff, and wear chef hats, and they used to come to Touche, and so I love bringing my daughters to work and sharing it with them, and they still talk about those times. So
I got to build on that a
were
little
the best
bit.
times.
Just not that Ed and I have ever been competitive, but when he opened Touche, he sent these crayons and paper around to some various chefs around the city. And he said, draw something that we're going to hang it in the bar. So I went to my kids and I said, listen, remember Ed? I said he's opening a new restaurant. He wants me to draw. Why don't you draw something? So my 2 oldest drew a picture of Pike Street, my restaurant, and a picture of Touche. And then they showed customers. They were leaving my restaurant, going to his. And I asked my kid, what are you doing? She says, well, Ed's got a new restaurant, man. Everybody's going to go there. And he hung it in a prominent space. And you know what happened? A lot of my customers went to him.
Yeah, when you talk to kids, when I was, I got divorced when I was 35, so 36, 37, we opened up Forte in Birmingham, and I lived in downtown Birmingham. I had an apartment there, and across the street from Forte. And so I'd have my kids over, but I had to work, so they'd have a babysitter, and they had walkie-talkies. And so they're literally across the street on the 4th floor, and they could talk to me while I was on the line. Dad, what are you doing? What are you doing?
Yeah.
I'm like, Josh, dude, I'm cooking, man. Let me work, you know. But on Saturday mornings, we'd bring them over to the restaurant, and they'd sit and make pizzas and stuff. So having the kids in the kitchen was...
It's interesting that, none of us said, I cooked for the President of the United States, or
we did
made
all
this
that
meal.
stuff.
I did,
Yeah.
or I made it,
Yeah, you're right.
You know what the most memorable thing was what we were working hard for.
Yeah, it's our kids, our family.
Yeah.
We
And we all had it up.
as we get older, I
prestige and
think
all
you
that stuff.
you start looking back in life, and you start realizing, it's someone said.
And now, if Gabriel was here, he would say, "Well, I did." He'd come to school and he'd say, "How many did you do on Mother's Day?" And I said, "Man, I had a great Mother's Day, man. I did 250." He goes, "I did 259." The next week, he said, "What'd you do?" I said, "Man, I have to lie now. I did 290." He said, "Well, I did 305."
Chef Gabriel is one of our an amazing teaching chef at Schoolcraft who's still teaching.
Yeah.
And
He's one of those retired guys. You can't let it go.
Yeah.
But you know what? That's his social. Like Ed's social is tennis included with his life. For Gabriel, he needs that social. So I have no friends. I have nothing. I stand in the corner most of the day. I got to try to work that social thing into my retirement. I forgot about it.
No, we love you. We love you for while we're here, anyways.
In front of me, I love you.
So, George, are there any thoughts or in relation to cooking? These guys they know their way around the kitchen. You can ask. You can always ask me later too, but you can ask them. See if there's any cooking questions that you might want to throw at these two guys.
No, I already know I'm a good cook. I mean, I'm fitting in with the ego thing here. I already know I'm a good cook, so I know
you
I
are
can
too.
rely on my own resources.
Brian, by the way, his forte is charcuterie. I mean, he really is one of the nation's greatest charcuterie chefs, who's written several books about charcuterie.
I can make you a really kick-ass charcuterie board now. I tell you.
You mean with food on it, or just the board
Oh no,
itself?
just the board, mind you.
Okay, I'd love that.
Could, yeah.
Hey, you want to know something, George? I wasn't going to bring it up, but part of this retirement plan, I've been getting into working with wood. I've always did when I was my growing up. My dad, we had a drill press and a table saw and a lathe, and we always built things. But I'm doing more and more. I'm thinking about adding on to my house and building a little wood shop. So my
Well, you
question
should come take a class from me. What do you want to learn?
There was one question was can I come down and visit you and take a class? I didn't know you did classes, but I'll do that. And the second thing is what brand table saw do you have?
What do I have? Let's see. A Bosch portable table saw for job sites. A Hammond glider table saw built in Kalamazoo back in the 1940s. A Delta Unisaw. I have a Felder rolling panel table saw, and I have a Watkins table saw.
So like this is what I found out talking to woodworkers. Talking about table saws is like talking to old musicians. I got a Fender, I got a Gibson. You know what I mean?
There you go.
And because it makes a difference. You got the right saw for the right job.
George does classes. That you'd really.
I'm going to. I'll ride my motorcycle down there.
Oh man, you'd love that.
Yeah.
I'll be there in Georgia. I'm going to be there in May, as soon as the weather breaks.
Yeah,
So-
it's a beautiful place. Some of the most fantastic motorcycle riding you can find. I live.
What part of Tennessee?
I live 30 miles from Smoky Mountains National Park, right on the very eastern.
How far
right
are you
on
from
the
like Pigeon Forge or anything like that?
45-minute drive from Pigeon Forge.
Yeah, so I've been all through there. I've done the whole Parkway. I've done the Blue Ridge. I've done the whole Blue Ridge Mountains. I've done.
I live 1 hour due north of Asheville is where I live.
Okay, I know.
You
Yeah,
come up-
sure.
You come up out of the mountain over
I did.
from Asheville.
The Dragon's Tail too is in that area.
Oh yeah,
It's 111 turns and 14 miles.
it's a very crooked road.
Yeah.
Well, guys, We really appreciate you both
Well, thanks
spending
for
time
having
with
us.
No,
Hey, thanks for
appreciate having
having
your
us,
time
Keith.
with us.
Fun.
And George, thanks for jumping in and being part of this, of course. And to our guests out there, we appreciate you listening to Can You See How I See? And hopefully you glean something from this episode with these two amazing colleague, friend chefs, Chef Brian Polcyn and Chef Ed Janos.
Thanks, Keith.
Thanks, Keith. But also, let's close it out with the if you buy your insurance from Progressive and you bundle home, motorcycle, and car, you will save. No, thanks for having us. George, I'm going to be in
Hey,
touch
George,
with you.
nice meeting you.
Nice meeting you, man.
Yeah.
You guys have a great day.
Talk to you soon, George. Take care. Thanks, guys. Never forget, how you live your life today will determine how you age tomorrow.